Good afternoon, everybody. Hell's Unicorn here once again on this most momentous of occasions, I guess some would say. And while we're on the topic, happy 4th of July, everybody. But while we're on that topic, I just have a little question I'd like to throw out there, just for sake of my own curiosity. What are we celebrating? Does anybody know what the actual meaning of Independence Day is, supposedly? Before we get into that, I just want to add a few little caveats to this brief little rant that I'm going to be going into right now. For all intents and purposes, the official ratification of our independence from the Kingdom of Great Britain actually occurred on July 2nd. And if you read a particular letter from John Adams to his wife Abigail, he was of the opinion that July the 2nd was going to be the day that everybody was going to be celebrating, because that was the day that everything became official. It wasn't until the 4th of July that the actual Declaration of Independence, which spelled out in specific legal terms what exactly this Resolution of Independence was. And even then, there's still a little debate about whether or not it was actually signed on the 4th or whether that actually occurred a bit later. But by and large, the 4th of July itself didn't really become any kind of an established holiday until much later. There were observances amongst people within the individual colonies as soon as 1777 up into the early 1800s. But it wasn't until 1870 that Congress actually made Independence Day a federal holiday in which federal employees could take off. And it wouldn't be until 1938 that it became a paid holiday. 1870. That is a time period which is fraught with political turmoil. That was the era of Reconstruction, the recent aftermath of the Civil War. So, in lieu of that particular part of history, one could almost argue that July the 4th being a federal holiday marked the end of the Republic and the beginning of the Empire. And after all, aren't all days glorifying the Empire noted with a lot of pomp and circumstance? A lot of blam and bluster, so to speak? Furthermore, when it became a paid holiday in 1938, I guess that would be the point where it became a federalistic, socialistic, imperial holiday. Because face it, what was the actual reason why we separated from the Kingdom of Great Britain? Was it so that we could erect an empire of a similar nature and simply be our own king rather than have another king across the Atlantic ruling us? If you read the writings of those amongst the founding fathers who were capable with the pen, I don't really think that's what they had in mind. And indeed, would any of the founders, nay, even Alexander Hamilton, the one lone imperialist among the founders, really recognize the country that exists today in comparison to the one that existed back then? This current warmongering interventionist country that can't even keep its own books in order and yet thinks that it should be able to keep the books of every nation on this planet in order? The nation where habeas corpus is simply a bunch of mumbo-jumbo tied to the Fourth Amendment, and that whenever you leave your house, and oftentimes even when you're in your house, you're subject to any whimsical search that the federal government deems appropriate or prudent. And of course, there's always the mantra of national security this, national security that. And what about the economic side of the coin? I mean, a good amount of the resistance to remaining in the Kingdom of Great Britain had to do with not only being taxed, but also the way we were taxed. We were taxed in a way where we were not even allowed to modify our behavior to get out of paying the tax. And recently we have been subject to a number of new taxes that do just that. The founders cried no taxation without representation. Today, everybody says representation is a non sequitur, so let's get on with the taxes. I think the 4th of July nowadays is largely just an excuse for people to have a barbecue or a picnic or go out and get drunk or just watch mind-numbing television programs, be it movies that promote this sort of false sense of nationalism or professional sports and related events that simply reduce people to a vegetated state and fill their heads with a lot of useless data. The 4th of July it's just a day off for people that work for Uncle Sam. And for the rest of us, it's just an excuse to do something that we could very well be doing on any other day. I don't see much of a reason to go out and do all that stuff. I see all the reason in the world for going in and reading some history books about this country and finding something to actually be proud of with regards to being an American, but all this crap that everybody is probably doing right now, all the fireworks, all the partying, all the stupid speeches that every other politician in Washington, D.C. are giving at present, that stuff doesn't really appeal to me. I don't really have much use for it. So why don't all of you just give me your thoughts on what you think is the reason why we're still celebrating this holiday? Because I don't think Independence Day really fits the occasion anymore. In fact, I would argue taking the "in" out of independence would make it a little more accurate. We're independent from Great Britain, maybe, but we're dependent on another foreign empire, China, and several others. I mean, we have debt out the wazoo to a number of different nations, and no intention whatsoever of paying it off. Our freedoms are ever shrinking, and we have various people in elected office that see this occasion as an opportunity to congratulate themselves for destroying the remaining liberties that we have right now. I definitely see little point in getting real jazzed up about this day. But anyway, that's what I think. Just let me know what you think. Until next time, with prudence to myself and benevolence to all of you, good evening.